I spend a lot of my time, probably way too much of my time, watching old wrestling matches. So this morning, in preparation for you, I decided, let me just throw on a couple episodes in, old Nitro just to refresh my memory. And it just so happened by chance, luckily, I'm so glad it happened this way. I settled on season 2, episode 29 from July 29th, 1996. Now, I don't know if you remember what happened on this day, but I'm sure you will after I tell you what led up to this. We got a 6-man tag match in the ring, right? It's 3/4 of the 4 horsemen, Benoit, Flair, and McMichael, taking on Luger, Sting, and Savage. In the middle of the match, here comes Jimmy Hart from the back. He's yelling. He's grabbing cameramen. He's like, I need help. I need help. The outsiders are back there. He's pleading. Luger finally understands what he's saying. They run to the back. And then the scene that unfolded was one of the greatest scenes ever in the history of wrestling. The first thing we see is Arn Anderson laid out. Then we have the American males, Buff Bagwell, Scotty Riggs. They had just gotten beat down with a baseball bat. Riggs actually got hit by Hall with a stage light, I think it was. Yeah. And then Rey Mysterio steps out of the trailer and he jumps on Kevin Nash, and Nash catches him. And the moment that I think everyone has seen, he just throws him off the trailer like a lawn dart. And then, the NWO laugh. They get into the limo. They speed off. Randy Savage comes out. He jumps on the roof of the limo. The limo takes off. Savage is gone. And then total chaos ensues, Eric. And it was so chaotic and amazing because you're sitting there like, what is going on? You've got all the guys laid out. You've got Sting asking Eddie Guerrero what Rey Mysterio was saying because Rey's speaking in Spanish. And Eddie's like, there's 3 guys. No, there's 4 guys. And, and the late, great woman, she's so amazing. She's cradling Arn Anderson's head and she's screaming for help and please help Arn. And, Miss Elizabeth is there trying to comfort her. And Steve Mongo McMichael is just screaming in the background about justice and the outsiders that can't get away with this. Can you just tell us, what do you remember putting that all together and how much, did you have to do with that?
A lot. It was
amazing, involved. Eric. I was this morning. I was like, oh, I'm so happy. This is the episode that came on.
Yeah. What I'm proud of about that scene, number one, it was live. So there was no editing involved. There was no safety net. There was no rehearsal. We blocked it. I mean, we had to block it because the cameras needed to know where they needed to be and have a general idea of what was going to happen. But in a scene like that, in the wrestling business, we used to call it a schmoz, which is just
schmoz. That was the word. Yeah.
People, beat the hell out of each other backstage. It's not like a match where there's a sequence of moves and things. It's just like a gang fight, basically. And so we blocked it, but we didn't rehearse it. 80% of what you saw or more was all improv. Like the thing with Ray, that just happened.
No.
Yeah. So much of it.
That's a human being.
So Arn, we had him laid out the minute the cameras got back there because Arn had some nerve damage in his neck. We couldn't afford to bounce him around at all with risk of getting him hurt. But just about everything else you saw was just kind of improvised. And what was really cool about it was we shot that at the Disney MGM Studios in Orlando because that was during the Olympics. And every production crew, every freelancer from sports that we could possibly try to find was already booked for the Olympics. So we were forced to go to Disney MGM Studios and shoot that show because they had their own in-house production team and I didn't have to hire freelancers. So we shot that at the Disney MGM Studios. We did it outside. So what was really interesting is while this schmoz is going on, I'm in the back and I'm hearing sirens. I'm thinking, wow, it must be a fire or something, at the sound stage. I didn't know what it was. I go in the backstage area and all of a sudden cop car. Now we had a couple cop cars there.
Yeah.
We wanted 1 or 2 there, but now there's like 8 of them. And these are legit cops.
Oh,
these aren't our toy cops. These are real cops. And they're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. What happened was there were people that were watching that show live that were right around Disney, the location we were shooting. They saw that and called the police. They called 911. because they thought there was a murder going on at the soundstage. And we were explaining to the cops, no, see these cameras? This is all make-believe. This isn't real, But it was such a believable scene that people called the cops on us. It was crazy.
Yeah, I know at one point, I hear the siren, a fire truck pulls up, not an ambulance, and then Jimmy Hart just goes running through the crowd of people like he was trying to give a mess. Now it makes sense. Maybe he was running over to tell somebody, but it looked just really weird the way Jimmy ran through. And then, Alex Wright gets in the ambulance with Ray, who's not speaking English, and leaves Eddie. And I thought, well, that's weird because how's he going to, but Eric, it was truly just one of those moments that you're like, what is going on? And then I remember I watched it. The crowd starts to chant boring, but not because it was boring. They didn't know what was going on in the back because you didn't have monitors out there, right?
Yeah, we didn't have monitors. So they of course, felt like they were getting shortchanged because they didn't know there was a massacre going on backstage.
I remember Tony Schiavone saying, well, they're chanting boring, but if they knew what was happening, they probably wouldn't.
That was one of the more definitive moments, I think, in Nitro during that period of time. We did a couple things, not to that scale, but we did a couple things that were so believable and felt so real.
Oh, yeah.
That people just weren't convinced one way or the other whether this was fake. Is this really WWE really trying to invade? Or they just weren't sure. And that's, what I tell people today when they say, oh, what's missing in wrestling? I think part of what's missing is what I always used to refer to as the sweet spot. It's like, even as a teenager, I knew what I was watching wasn't real. It was just too choreographed, even for a 13-year-old. I just knew it. I didn't know how, but I just knew.
Right.
But then every once in a while, there'd be a match or there'd be two wrestlers that were so intense in everything that they did that I would be like, okay, I know the rest of those matches might be, make believe, but these two guys, they really,
yeah, that's the feeling.
I think every wrestling fan has had that moment in their life.
Well, and that's the sweet spot. That's the target. You want to try to get fans to a point where, they know it's wrestling, but they think this wrestling's real.
Yeah.
And we were successful with that formula a lot with Nitro throughout 96, 97, even 1998. We did a lot of that, and it's what took us to the top.
Watch new episodes of No Contest Wrestling every Wednesday or listen wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us at No Contest Wrestling Podcast on Instagram.